I'd like to welcome everyone to today's broadcast of Truth. Today's guest, we have with us Troy Rudisill, VFC 13 Command Senior Chief of the United States Navy. How you doing today, Chief?
I'm doing all right.
Awesome. And then now, let's get started with, what actually led you into the Navy. I mean, I remember 22 years ago, the days of the enlistment. I had Andrew Hyde for my recruiter was Andrew Hyde. And so what kind of led into that? Was it, something going on personally? Was it family that inspired it, or was it just something that you just took off and went with?
So, a little backdrop of that. It took me 3 times to get into the Navy. There's only one thing that I knew I needed to join. First time I applied, I went to the delayed entry program, right? I was having too good of a time. Maybe hanging around the wrong people, wrong crowd, but I was having
Myself?
fun. Well, maybe you contributed to that factor, but I didn't graduate. And with not graduating, I was 3 credits short, right? So I went back the following year. My recruiter, the guy that Andrew Hyde, he let me come back in at that time. Navy was letting you come back in. But I wanted to go back to school. I told Andrew, I was like, hey, I want to try to finish up 3 credits. Well, I went back, and lo and behold, I fell in the same trap, having too much of a good time, wrong crowd. And then I didn't, I went up to MEPS, and MEPS turned me around. I was too heavy. I was out of shape, basically drinking too much. Wasn't watching what I was doing, didn't care. And then I didn't end up completing my courses. So I didn't even have the high school diploma. Well, something clicked on me. After all that said and done, Andrew still talked to me, and I said, Andrew, I'm ready. He goes, are you serious this time? And I ended up talking to a admiral on the phone, he basically asked me why I wanted to join and why I should let him back in and give us, this second or third chance. And I told him, it's like, I need the direction. I know I want to go. My priorities were wrong at the time, and realigned myself, and I got back in it and got my credits done. I went to an adult high school, got them finished. Showed Andrew my diploma was done, and then on that following week, I was going to MEPS, and I was in shape. I was ready to go, and they took me in. So I only had my uncle that was in the Navy, my dad's brother, and then my other uncle, my mom's brother. He retired as a chief, but I didn't have no guidance. They weren't giving me words of wisdom or anything like that. They just kind of said, that it was a good deal. It was good to get away from that small town and go out and see something. So that's why I came in to go see something, do something bigger than me. And then I just knew I needed to do something a little bit different. When you ask people this question now, it always changes. It changes. Well, I joined for college money. I joined for, to get away from home life. I joined for the experience. Well, I joined for all of it, and I like it. So I stayed.
Thank you for making the decision.
Yeah.
Well, seriously, because, as good as any. So, I didn't know Andrew was your recruiter as well, though. So with
Andrew, he's on my paperwork.
Yes. So when I went to Indianapolis, I was partying and stuff like that. It was like my last party before I go. And I failed the drug test for marijuana.
Yeah.
And that really crushed me, because it was my purpose in joining was to get away from, everybody there was really my only family, and I just wanted that connection, that brotherhood, or some kind of acceptance of family and stuff like that. So I had my own reasons and stuff like that too. But
yeah,
witnessing you at that part, and then the transition and the decisions you made, that's why it's real important to me. I kind of watch a lot of individuals from a distance, and my hat's off to you. I have so much respect and love for you, Troy. It's so commendable. And that's now, with that being said, what made you choose the Navy as the core? I know you said you wanted to travel and stuff. Was the traveling and seeing different parts of the world the main part on selecting that core, or was there something else that kind of drove you to, actually enlisting in the Navy?
So I tried Air Force, believe it or not, and Air Force they wouldn't talk to me. They said, have you taken your ASVAB yet? And I'm like, no, I haven't taken it yet. And they're like, well, do this little pretest, took the pretest, and obviously I didn't score high enough, and they said no. And I think that was down in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, that I tried that out. And then with my uncle being in the Navy. And I remember, the only thing I remember about him being in the Navy is being in Virginia at that time and being on a ship his whole damn career. And I was like, well, let me try the Navy, because I knew I wasn't a Marine. I didn't want to, that takes, we've all seen what Marines are supposedly like before you actually be a part of them. And I was like, you know what, maybe I want to trade. I liked working with my hands, and the way the Navy kind of, when they make an enlisted member join, they make you pick a trade, and you get trained on that. And I was building log homes at the time, and I was doing sheet metal work, and I liked it. So that's what I was kind of going for. And that's why I chose the Navy, was because it fit real easy. And Andrew, the recruiter, Hyde, he knew what kind of person I was. He was able to read me pretty well. They kind of have to. And he kind of told me, he's like, go aviation, you'll like it, I promise you. And I took it on a whim and trusted him, and it's been a good career ever since.
Awesome. And then, so during your, what is it now, 22 years? 22 year
Yeah,
career?
I joined March of 1999, so I'm coming up on 23 years in March.
Congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And then, so during that, I know that you've been able to see a lot. And has there been any portion of that? I mean, I know we're not going to be talking about policies and all that good stuff too, but I just kind of like to, because my main thing that I'd like to see, because enlistments for military across the board, it's been going down, even with like first responders and everything else, it's the enlistments are, kind of going down. And, I'm always trying to encourage individuals that, you really don't want to force somebody in this career. You and I've, spoke about that before, because you want to have somebody that's kind of willing to make that dedication and sacrifice. So, what things did you experience, outside of I know advancement in your education, everything else like that is always a benefit, but what other kind of encouragement of the travel, education, or what would you say for individuals that are viewing or are considering enlisting in the military? Or let's talk about the Navy, since that's your strong suit right now.
Yeah, so I never knew this coming in. I just knew that I was going to the Navy, and my broad picture of the Navy was I'd be on a ship on this big gray thing floating in the water, and barely coming home. Well, it's a misconception, because there's so much it has to offer. And not only the education, like you talk about, and getting your master's degree, all the way up to master's degree can be paid for. So the education is not a question. It's just the camaraderie you get. Because if you were a guy or a gal that was big into team sports and camaraderie and fellowship and, supporting each other. Now, granted, it's growing pains too. You have to learn to adjust, because you also have to listen to someone tell you what to do, which is sometimes not the easiest thing to do when you're 18 to 25, or even 43 years old.
I know.
Yeah. So it's just a wide spectrum, and you can grow within the Navy, and it's provided for you. If you don't want to be like myself, I was an aircraft structural mechanic. I worked on sheet metal and hydraulics, and I seen another opportunity where guys were coming back off these planes in green suits, and they were considered air crew that I knew at the time, and they had tans, they had more money than I did, and they were always in a good mood. And I'm like, well, what the heck? So I seen a way that I can apply for the air crewman program. I applied, passed, got accepted, passed my syllabus that you train in and stuff. And then I started flying. And that was only one facet of my job. I was still doing the other stuff. So there's plenty of opportunity to go from somebody that wants to turn a wrench to somebody that wants to be an officer to someone that wants to be an admin type person, a computer person, a nuke. Not only, you just need to get your foot in the door, and there's so many opportunities for you to apply for while you're young and even while you're older, because there's people that join the Navy, up into the early 30s, come in really late, and they see it for what it is, and they succeed. So you're your own limit when it comes to this. This is where government is not a bad thing, in my opinion. This is where it can help you. If you're a kid that kind of has got that misdirection, or you need a little bit of structure, but you don't want to hear anybody tell you that, this is a good way to get it. And it's a good way to set you up for, I could have retired a couple years ago, and I didn't. Chose to stay in. I could have retired and been fine, and have a small job somewhere, but I'm still giving back. So, yeah.
Well, a lot of that too, though, and I see it, in your tone and everything else too, as far as, and I preach this to everybody. I mean, you may know
Yeah.
this, that as far as passion goes, and that's why, you see a lot of, I believe, like the 20s and the 30-year-olds enlisting, because it's that passion about wanting to do something and seeing that opportunity, as opposed to, like you said,
Yeah.
upon, like, initial enlistment, it might have been about, seeking out for education, whatever the case may be. But
Yeah.
then, developing that passion along with that. And, with that comes a long way, because, the leadership that you have, it isn't even just in, how you serve with the United States Navy, but, I get to witness it, following you on Facebook, and
Yeah.
that's a blessing as well too. But, I mean, you being able to be the leader at home and be the leader for the country, that goes a long way, because, I mean, there's some outstanding individuals, but a lot of individuals aren't able to find that equal balance to where they can separate, their duty to country and then their duty to the family and everything else as well too. So,
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
it's very hard, Mike. I mean, when I first joined, and this is where leadership pays off, just like any job, it's a traveling job. So I can use this in context. I was flying 700 hours a year, and that's a lot of flight time being gone and many deployments. So working for a company that's, traveling or doing whatever, you get stressed. You get stressed real quick. And then if you have a significant other, or if you have kids at a young age, you got to balance all that stuff. And a lot of times on the private sector, I've noticed the support isn't there. And then people end up making bad decisions. What I like about our part is the support's here, and we've gotten better. We try to get better all the time, because, and it's another reason why I stayed in, is because the leadership needs to, focus on some things. It's about being a total individual. We like to call it warrior toughness, but it's being a total well-rounded sailor and a well-rounded person. And leaders need to speak to a few things and bring things out to light. And sometimes it's hard. But when you recognize it, you bring it out, it helps deal with that. And we're all a family. I lead this place like it's my family. I'm here more with them than I am anybody else. So it is my family. And I truly do care about the first person that walks through the door to the last person that goes home at night. So, and that's part of it.
and then, I've seen that in your hobbies, one of the things is the mentoring and leadership. A lot of individuals think that leadership and mentoring is the same thing, but it's not, because you can have some leaders that are just strictly there to get the job done, point fingers, delegate tasks and things like that, to where mentoring, essentially you're building that individual up to where, they could be that leader. So I feel, at least my opinion is that, leadership and mentoring are two different things. And, you're a great example of that.
I appreciate that.
And then, so now, where are you trying to go with the mentoring aspect of it? It's kind of one of the reasons, realistically, that's one of the reasons I want to bring you on here, so individuals, viewers can actually see the man you are.
Yeah.
As far as, you have an exemplary career with the United States Navy. You have an exemplary, personal life and things like that as well too. Oh, and a funny thing about that is, Patricia was going through my phone earlier, because I said, hey, this is, Troy Rudisill. This is who I'm going to be doing the podcast with later on, the interview with. Yeah. And so she was scrolling through the timeline, and kind of what you said earlier about the misconception about the always being gone, not being home. She said, well, he sees his family, often. I was like, it was one of my misconceptions too. It was like, oh, is he over there? Blah, blah, blah. It's around the world and back. So, it's amazing. And so with that, on the mentoring aspect, are you trying to do that like publicly? Or have you ever thought about doing something like this for yourself, to where, it could be part of the recruitment aspect of it, to where you are mentoring individuals and, things like that? Or is it something that you just do in the everyday people that you meet, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, to me, well, I meet more just on the military side, but it's a conversation first. It's not, hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z. That shouldn't be the first impression, right? Granted, the position of authority, we all have our rank and we all have our obligation, what we're supposed to do, but a conversation goes a long way. And when you sit down with someone and you talk about what you do, Family first. It's something that's commonly said with all of us, but family first. A lot of people don't get that in the very beginning. They think that they need to be at their watch station 24 hours a day, which there's requirements that have to be met, but family first. If something comes up, they need to know that the person to the left and right of them, or the person that's giving them the order, will take care of them. Take care of them, let them go take care of their family, let them take care of the issue. The mission will always go on. It's a hard lesson to learn in the beginning, but as you get older and more senior, you kind of realize that, whether it be in a business or just in the military in general, once you have a good, stable foundation, it makes your job a lot easier. It really does. It lets you deal with some things you wouldn't be able to deal with normally. When that foundation is rocky, just like anything else, you tend to be a little off balance, off kilter. Stuff don't seem right. So a conversation to start off and to make yourself human and relatable. That's the other key word, family first and relatable. If you can make yourself relatable and approachable, everything seems to fall into place. I've had plenty of people in front of me that are not approachable, right? You're scared to talk to them. Great leaders, but you're scared to talk to them. And it shouldn't be that way. You should be able to talk to them and have that conversation when you need to within your boundary. So
it is one of the things as well too that like the Adventures of Arlo, exposing him.
Yeah.
But exposing him to your career and everything else as well too. This early in life, I think.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, you're fine. You're a busy man. I'll never make that's work. So, but that exposure that you're providing to him early in life, like a lot of parents, kids know that, hey, mom and dad's off at work or whatever the case is. But I mean, you sharing your life with him, I believe that's vital, and that goes into the mentorship, the leadership aspect of you.
It does, and it puts a smile on my face. But you know what, Mike? I'm lucky. I'm lucky in the fact that, in some ways, while I'm doing this late in my career, most military members don't get to have this kind of luxury. And I say that because in the beginning, you're busy. You're busy training, getting ready to know your job, perform it very well, and be that subject matter expert. So you're gone a lot, and you do have to have that balance, and that's where that leadership comes in. So in the beginning, if my wife and I had Arlo, we met in 2000. If we would have had kids right off the bat, she was on her career path, I was on mine, we wouldn't have that kind of luxury that we have now. So I'm taking advantage of every moment that I can, and let him see all that and let him be a part of that. And now that I'm kind of at a point in my life and career, I can devote more time to that. And I can have sympathy for people that don't have it. And I have sympathy for those that are struggling to make a successful career and a name for himself right off the bat. And that foundation is, a little bit getting some sacrifice because you're trying to do that. So, and that's hopefully where I can come in and kind of help smooth that transition, or even help the individual and keep them on track. But yeah, I am lucky, Mike. And I tell you what, Adventures of Arlo, they'll keep going because I'll be 60 when he's 20. Holy shit. So I'll keep doing it.
Awesome. And then, I know you plan on retiring with the Navy. I mean, you've made that extremely clear. And have you ever thought about, again, the leadership mentoring aspect of it? Has recruitment ever been, a site for, where you see yourself in the coming years? Or
it's a lot of people have asked me that question, and we all get it too. What are you going to do when you retire? What are you going to do when you retire? Well, I'm not going to retire until they quit paying me. Once they quit paying me, then I'll retire. So, and this job, as long as you're having fun at it and you stay relevant, I think you should stay in. If you're not relevant anymore and you don't like coming in, you're having more negative days than positive, then it's time to go. But as far as, man, when I'm said and done with this, hopefully I still got enough energy to do something that's meaningful and then more relevant. I'd love to do a substitute teacher job. I would love to work with, youth because of the troubles, way back when. If I probably would have had a little bit better direction or a little bit more concrete stability in my life, it probably would have ended up a little different. So if I can give back, yeah. Do I need to get paid for it? Hopefully my retirement helps me get paid for it. But yeah, it's the book's open. My wife, I don't think I told you this, but she's a psych nurse. She did her 4 years and got out. She was in IT, just worked on computers and programming. Got out, did the reserves for a little bit, but she got her degree when she got out, and she loves psych nurse. And that's probably one of the things of what keeps me straight too, is her. So Rosanna, she's going to continue on that path of helping people. She always has, and she's always been that person. And me, I'm a good talker and a listener, so I'll probably stay with something like that if I can. Whatever makes it happen.
Is she a psych nurse for military or civilian?
No, all in the civilian sector. She's yeah, she got her degree while we were stationed in Maryland, and she's been trying to go for a specific field since she got her degree, and she found her niche in psych nursing, and she's been doing that since Texas. I was stationed in Texas, Fort Worth, and then Jacksonville. She's done it, and then now here, currently not doing it here in where I'm at, but she will be probably after we leave here.
And you talking about staying relevant. And I mean, that is such. I mean, I thank her for choosing that role, because it takes a special individual to be able to do that, and it is so needed today. And to kind of feed into that and about the relevancy, okay? Because and we don't have to get in too much. I mean, I know you don't want to talk about policy and stuff like that, but this is something that, as you know, has been dear to me for a very, very long time in regards to individuals' mental health, their well-being, and everything else. And so you made a comment about even though you're getting paid, about staying relevant, because there are a lot of individuals that lose that passion along the way, that they really should step out, because it could, really put, you, the platoon, the whole, everyone in danger, because their mind really isn't sharper in the game. They lost the relevancy, let's just say. So, I mean, how do you try to, in going back to your leadership and mentoring, so, I mean, is that something that you try to, because what you guys see compared to the civilians of what we see is a whole different level on the scale, whole different level.
It is.
So how do you keep them guys like knowing that, hey, you yourself are there to talk to, or I mean, is that something that you guys make sure that it's known that, hey, if you're not all right, talk to someone, because it's really important, especially in, your career, your field, that they need to clear that, because again, that relevancy aspect of it. I mean, how does that play?
It plays a big part. Mental health. I mean, you could read this for yourselves, and everybody can do the research. In the military in general, not just one specific branch of service, mental health is a big question. Different generations of people are joining the Navy. I mean, look, when I joined before 9/11. 9/11 happened, just a couple of years or within a year after me joining. So now you get a different type of generation coming in. That 9/11 is also on YouTube, and not really, they weren't affected. They weren't born yet. They didn't experience it. It's crazy to think that, but that is true. So
I don't want to cut you off, because I know where you're going with it, but I wanted to ask you a quick question in regards to that, because I know, because I remember a post you made about when you were like woke up talking about that we're under attack, and especially with it being fresh when you went in. I mean, how did that play in your mind? Did that help you make the decision as far as hey, this is where I'm going to be? I do want to be that service.
Oh, yeah, because the first year or two, anybody is in the service. Well, I can use myself as an example. I was still drinking, still having a good time. It kind of seemed like, you're living in a dorm room almost. You're living in a barracks, and you have other people, your age, kind of a good mix of people. So you work hard, play hard kind of deal, right? So that day when the attack happened, I made a post. Let's get a knock on the door. And this is my barracks room. I was sleeping because we were having a good time the night before. It was my off day. And I got woken up saying that we've been attacked. And my buddy Keith, he ran off, didn't say anything else. I just left the kind of door open. And there I am walking out my door, looking off the balcony of the barracks. And I could see the smoke from the Pentagon. because I was stationed at Andrews Air Force Base. And I'm like, that reality kind of hits you and you're like, what? No. So then you turn on the news, and I was seeing it just like anybody else. And kind of before that event, it always takes a major event to kind of change you. And that definitely changed me personally because the mission changed. You were part of something that was much more bigger than you that you could even imagine. It wasn't just about coming in and listening to my supervisor, saying, hey, you need to go wash the aircraft today. Fuck, I got to do another plane wash. No, this was something totally different. This was, everybody, it's time has come. We're going overseas. We're going to go do support. We were flying nonstop and everything changed. And it changed my mentality of my training. It made me wanted to be a perfectionist in what I did. And being on the C-130 Loadmaster side, when I was doing that job very young, we got called real quick and we seen a lot of stuff. And we moved a lot of stuff. We helped a lot of people. And those humanitarian / things that we were doing and moving equipment from, across the pond, it was life-changing. So we haven't had we've had other little things happen, the USS Cole and a few other things happened throughout since the terrorist attacks of 9/11. So people have had some major events, but everybody's waiting for this big major event. And we don't know what's coming next. You see on news, you can watch, it can be anybody at this point, but it changes you. Now, I know it changed you, probably your mindset too, even though you weren't in service. I mean, I got the calls from family. I've got all the questions they were asking me. My main job then was turning, what can I do to help? What do I have to do next? I wasn't really like that before. I was completing tasks, but I wasn't asking or really wasn't standing by just say, all right, what are we doing? Let's go do it. So yeah, it changes you and it makes your mindset different.
Well, on top of that as well, too, because like a lot of individuals in the civilian sector, they don't really understand that as far as knowledge shared.
Yeah.
It's civilians, we only know what media decides to provide us, whatever glimpse
Yeah.
they do. And sometimes a lot of people take that out of context. And a lot of times, that can actually put your whole everybody in danger because of that news that they release. Because I mean, with media nowadays, technology nowadays, people are watching the same stations we're watching here around the world, and there's just so much stuff that you really can't do. And that, I know that plays on the mind because, service members want to be able to provide their family the most knowledge that they can to keep them safe, keep them aware, and everything else too. And again, leadership, mentorship, there are different things as long as you're being as I'm not going to say transparent because there are things that you have to protect from, family and stuff like that. But, there are ways that, you can maintain their awareness. Same thing with individuals that are first responders, making sure that things to look out for, realities that do exist. Everybody tries to live in sunshine and rainbows, and we have those sunshine and rainbows because of individuals like yourself and, everything else that, lays protected. But, I can't even imagine like how that played, and that's why I wanted to bring it up though, because I know it was a kind of a career decider that, hey, this is where I'm going to stick, because a lot of individuals don't have that mentality. A lot of individuals would have created that, or they're not relevant, because, hell, it's time for this. I'm out of here. I want it for the boat ride, but
yeah.
So,
well, and that trained your mindset to handle the stress, because I could say I was doing 12 on, 12 off. Now, I don't know, for those people out there, if anybody's listening that flies, 12 on, 12 off is a hard thing to maintain, and you can only do so many hours of flight time and rest time in between before you got to go see a flight doc, and and they say, oh, no, he's good to go. They can fly some more hours. So we were pressed, man. We were tired, but we didn't show it in our faces. We were our minds were tired. We were beat physically, more mentally than anything, but we were ready for it. So, and then after that event happened, we got an influx of people joining the Navy, and they were joining it for patriotic reasons, which, they wanted to defend, or they had a personal experience, or they knew someone or lost someone during that on U.S. soil. So, yeah, it was very different. It was different time, different kind of individuals that joined the Navy then. I won't take anything out of what people join now, but it was just, to me, it was different. So
there was that purpose, that relevancy. It's just that, a lot of times we don't know where we want to go, and some people just do it to test it out. Some people do it just so they can have that sense of family. But you also want to be that person you see people in personal lives. People want to have a family, and they just get with somebody just to be with somebody, rather than wanting to contribute and having that reciprocation to where, all parties involved within that family are contributing what they need to be contributing to establish and maintain that family. And so let's say like with 9/11, how much of 9/11 do you use in the mentorship, the leadership of new cadets for a shock value, as far as using that as like, the precedent, as far as incidents like this happen, which should, never happen on, U.S. soil. But I mean, do you use it as a precedent to kind of use that shock value on their readiness, preparedness, and everything else as well too?
Mike, I'm going to show you something. If you can follow the camera. So in my office, just because we're talking about it, and I hope that it lights up.
Oh, wow.
So in my office, okay, these are pictures from World Trade Center, right? I keep them up here on poster board, and I have them up there as a conversation piece for people that come in, check in, and don't know me, right? They don't know who I am. All they see is Senior Chief Rudisill, kind of looking at them, doing their check-in sheet, or anybody that walks in my office. They ask me, some people ask me, some people don't, but I eventually get to the story. I tell them how long I've been in the Navy, and then I tell them about the flying days back, what we were doing. But that's a story, and I try to relate to them, try to show them purpose of what I did when I first came in. But now the warrior toughness and kind of thing that we're trying to do, are you willing to take the approach of you're going to go to war and you may not make it, or the guy standing or gal standing next to you may not make it? If something happens, can you pick it up where they left off and fight forward? That's a tough thing to ask someone, especially a younger Navy or younger military member now, especially if it's Navy, I think, Air Force, or maybe Army. But Army and Marines, we know how they train. They get right to the point real quick. We necessarily may not, because I've got people that do administration job, and they may not think that they'll ever have to be put in that place. And their job is just as important as my job. So they may be put in that place, and they may have to take a position that they've never done before, pick up whatever you want to say, the bayonet, the rifle, whatever, and fight forward. So we're trying to build that toughness, and that's a hard thing to do, because that's within someone. You got to pull that out, and that's leadership. How do you do it? It's a great question, and when you see it accomplished and done, and you see somebody grow as an individual, that's very rewarding, and your job's done. So yeah, it's tough, Mike. It's tough, but I do use that as a motivation / mentor, just to open up a conversation. And then they ask me where I get the photos, if I took them. And no, I say my brother did. He was a Cincinnati cop, and then Hamilton County, and then he went to Green Township eventually. But that was when they asked all the surrounding individuals within the states to come help out, clean up, and rescue and do all that. And him and one other buddy, I forget his name at the time, but they went. So those are his photos off of his camera.
Awesome. I appreciate you showing me that. I mean, it means a lot to me. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask that question, really, because it's again, I don't want to downplay, and a lot of people take what I say, but I'm just so blunt about everything. As far as
no, not at all.
How we civilians, we take things for granted. And things like that are out of sight, out of mind to a lot of individuals. I mean, yeah, you bring up 9/11, we know that it was a tragedy, everything else, but how many people can really just feel that attack personally?
Yeah.
And going back to with Roseanne and mental health,
yeah.
So a lot of individuals that step out of military, regardless of which branch, which service, which corps, and they become first responders.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't realize, and with you showing me that picture, maybe, think about a few friends of mine, one of them actually died, because they became, firefighter, and, they went into that building, and, a lot of civilians, they can't fathom, we might see, again, going back to what the news shows us, They don't know what you guys have seen on your deployments. They don't know what, a first responder has to see every day that they go out there. And to think that somebody's mentality is that selfless to where I don't care if this building's on fire and collapsing, I'm going to run in here and save somebody's life. I mean, and then knowing that, hey, I'm going to go over here and we're going to war. And people don't see that as a sacrifice. Oh, they signed up for, well, they did sign up for it, but it's still that's the point of a sacrifice, is being that selfless. Like, hey, you may be getting paid, but you're still making a sacrifice every day that, you walk into the office. And, it's just that I commend you, I commend everybody. But, in that mental health side is so important. And you showing that, because it lets people know it's not just a reminder. And that's why I use the phrase shock value. Yeah. Because it's are you willing to be this guy running into the rubble,
Yeah, it's crazy. I give it to first responders, because firefighters and police officers and, other first responders, even with nurses and, on the medical field, you kind of know that you may see a live gunfight, that you may see certain things. But when you join the Navy, we've supposedly been in this war for so long, right? Since I've joined the Navy, we've been at war. But I'm not fighting on the ground shooting every day. I'm not doing that. We do it in a different way. So when you sign a contract, you really don't think about it. And people, when they first come in, I don't think they really realize what the military is really here to do. And I say this as my own personal opinion, but I say, you're here to kill the enemy and you're here to defend the country. Point blank, how all these programs, policies, and everything else. But in the end of the day, I'm here to protect us. So, and that's what we're here to do.
All right. It's just that is the job you sign up for. I mean, you may have the rules of engagement, but those rules of engagement also state that you are to kill the enemy. It's what it is. But you have to do it with a good moral standing.
Yeah, good moral standing. Well, and you have to get approval before you do it.
Right.
But man, the mental health thing is big. It's big across everything, because look what we've been going through for the past 2 years. I've got families that haven't been out of their homes. I've got people that haven't seen their families because they can't travel. You got people that's been teleworking, not having a whole bunch of contact, being told, that they can't go certain places. They have to abide by certain rules.
Has that affected anybody's leave? As far as, are there restrictions like that? I mean, you don't have to disclose this or anything, but I mean, if is there restriction on leave because of the chance of somebody bringing COVID back to, the station and things like that? So, I mean, is there any restrictions that you guys aren't able to take leave as you normally would, or?
Well, it's no secret. I mean, we follow CDC guidelines. So if CDC is putting out, hey, you can't fly commercial without showing proof of vaccination, let's just say, we got to make them show proof. I mean, there's some things that have been affected, but we, just like anything else, and what we do on our side is we analyze everything to the core before we actually execute. So we look at the ORM, the operational risk management side of the house, and see how we can mitigate the risk. But if there's risk there, then it's going to affect it. Somebody's not going to go. So it has affected a lot of us, and we have to abide by CDC guidelines. And then some of ours are a little bit tougher because we can be a little bit more stringent, but it's for the safety and the health of, the sailor and everyone back here. So
not to kind of go off course here, but I think it was 2000,
no,
I might be wrong, 2010, that you were on the USS Constitution. How was that?
Okay. Well, it's 2014. I tell you what, if you asked me about milestones in my Navy career, that was the first time I've ever been on a ship, and I've actually sailed a ship. A lot of my Navy guys, they'll give me crap for this, but I've been aviation. I've been in a plane for 20 some odd years. I've never been on an actual ship, but Constitution. Just look at the history, the heritage. If you ever have a chance to go up and walk the decks of the Constitution and put your foot on that the wood and the oak and everything just about it, you feel everything. And it truly made me respect a lot of things. And then we trained about how they did stuff, back then, of course. We got to take it out in port. I got to fire the guns. They were of course blanks, but we did the salute out at the port. So man, it was awesome. I love Boston. I love Massachusetts as far as the history, founding fathers. It's one of my things that I truly, truly do love. So being able to sleep on the decks, and actually I slept on the gun deck. They'd have us sleep there at night, on the hardwood floors, and then get up in the morning. It was fantastic. It was awesome.
That's amazing. And that's just one of the. Sorry, I got the year wrong. But I knew it was sometimes some years ago and everything. And I always thought that was amazing. I never even really had a conversation with you about it.
Yeah,
I wanted to, but it's just that you're a busy guy. I just watch people from a distance. That's how I learn, and I have secret mentors like yourself that I just kind of follow. I mean, it's inspiring though. It's like I watch individuals like yourself, and I just pray that I can at least be like half the man, half the individual that you are, and stuff like that. I'm serious, man. I mean, it's and especially knowing where you and I both came from. I mean, my life back then as well too. It's just that. So it was just, that progression and that balance. Not many people have that balance, that leadership, that mentorship ability. Some people claim to be leaders. Some people have jobs teaching or being a mentor that should never even be in that career, But it means a lot to me, man. It really does. And it's just I seen that, I was like, that's pretty amazing. It's like individuals that have served in the Navy didn't even have that opportunity to actually be on the Constitution. That's what really was kind of like brought it to mind and stuff too.
Yeah. No, Mike, it's truly, man, I appreciate everything you're saying. It's truly respect thing, and I respect you too. But you said the people, in the Navy don't even really get a chance to go on there. And I went on there for CPO Pride Week, and they do it, every year they choose a select amount of chiefs selects that aren't quite, it's during their process of transition, and they get to go to this CPO Pride Heritage Week. And it's awesome. We put everybody in for it. Not everybody gets chosen. I had a good mentor in Fort Worth, Texas, that put me in, and I got selected. And I couldn't tell you, I owe that guy that put me in, and I owe him a lot, because it opened my eyes to a few new things, and I seen what he was preaching. So it kind of brought everything full circle for me. And the 3% make chief in the Navy once you join, if you get lucky, and then 2% make senior chief, and then 1% of the people who join make master chief. So just to have the honor, one, to be selected, and then to do something like that, I was pretty proud.
Awesome. And a lot of that goes because you just said it, to where, like I have a mentor, Steve Jordan and Sonny Lloyd. I kind of had one from either side and everything too, that it was and I look at it the same way as you just said, to where I owed them. I wouldn't have the pleasure to speak to you right now on the level that, I'm speaking with you. I'd be somewhere else, but, and that's where I was going as well too, that, a lot of people claim to be leaders. A lot of people claim to be mentors, but like knowing that the individual that mentored you, and you show it though. I mean, you've shown that, you've taken what an individual provided you, and, you've grown yourself. You've accomplished so much. You have an exemplary career. And like you just said, you already hit something that only 2% of individuals can actually do. And on top of that, you're selfless in your giving to others as well, too. A lot of people are selfish on, I know this, I'm not going to share this knowledge with you. It's one of my quotes for like my knowledge for the T.R.U.T.H knowledge management group, is the fact that, there's so much knowledge that, no one's spared, because it's I don't want nobody else at my level. And that's where it really does become truly selfless in what you're doing, on you giving us the time to even speak to you tonight, and sharing some of these things.
Well, what's crazy is, so my mentality has shifted. I didn't think like this before, but I'm truly training my replacement. What legacy do you want to leave behind? Right? I can say in the Navy, or if I was in a company, or I own something, I'd want a legacy to leave. Before, when I was younger, you didn't think about legacy. You just thought about going in the morning, hecking out in the afternoon, and going grabbing a beer or whatever, right? You did your job, you're going to get a paycheck, and that's it. Well, we teach different. And once you you get to earn the rank of Chief Petty Officer, and you get to don that anchor, it does change you a little bit, because you're responsible for everyone else. You're going to come second in most day-to-day things, and it's going to be everybody else and your sailors that come first. So I love that, because it just keeps you engaged. It keeps you knowing what your sailors are doing. It makes you want them to succeed. And you can walk away knowing that you've trained them right. You've provided direction for them. You don't win everyone. You got to accept loss too. And by loss, I just mean that you can't change everybody, and you're not meant to change everybody. But if I can still just grab a few and I can make them good leaders, because I'm only here because everybody else that was before me and gave me the talks, the mentorship that I still talk to some of those people today. I want to leave that behind also. I want to leave the Navy knowing that, one, my seat's filled and that person that I trained or people that I've trained, they can do the job. Two, that they care. And three, that they actually want to sit in this damn seat. It's hard. It ain't easy. It's hard. But if we can do that, that's what's good. I think that's a little bit different, in some areas. But I wasn't thinking like that 15 years ago. I can tell you that.
Awesome. And so, we had the discussion about how 9/11 changed you.
Yeah.
And so how much like in 2019, when you and Rosanna, finally had Arlo, how much did that change, not just like you, but as far as, in your leadership and mentorship with, the cadets and just your fellow officers and, preaching that balance or leading or mentoring about that balance, because it is vital, because, and especially in your position of where, you could be called off to war, like say 9/11, for example, to where, and that's all that's fogging your mind is that thinking about, hey, back home, and not being able to have that balance. And again, that's why I wanted to kind of talk to you, because again, that balance that you have, I'm not gonna, no, I don't want to say flawless. We all have our flaws, but it's about as close to flawless as can be, man. I mean, it really is. And again, that's why I'm so inspired by you, your story, and everything else too. And I'm sure that, the viewers will be as well. And I just wish that some of the viewers would have been exposed to the whole transition that, I've had the blessing to witness. Like, seriously, I mean, because they would really, really put things into light and everything. But so how much of that changed in your leadership, your mentorship with the fellow officers, fellow cadets, as far as understanding that, hey, you're going to have some sort of balance between career and service, family, to keep that mental health at its peak?
Yeah, it goes back to, being to relate. Before I could say, I could talk in my talks to junior sailors and my fellow just camaraderie, my brothers and sisters, I can just talk about it, right? When we had Arlo, and I'll share this with you and everyone, it took us, 9 years to have kids? It was a struggle. And I never knew the process that it takes and everything how it takes a toll on not only the wife, the husband, family, and friends. You get to see everything. And my wife and I, we were at a point to where we said, you know what, we're good with not having kids. I'm up for retirement. It just not going to happen. And let's concentrate on you and I, and let's travel, and let's just, have a good time. Well, that's when we had Arlo. So, taking 9 years to have that, I can relate to the sailors and have that story. And I share it. I'll share it with anybody that asks, because, it took a toll on me mentally. Your ups, your downs, your moods, the coming home, being happy, unhappy, the little arguments and saying stuff out of spite that you don't even think you're saying, all that stuff. It was coming out. And sailors are going through the same issues, and they're required to be warfighting ready. I was doing it my own way, but I can share that and be relatable. And then when Arlo finally came, I can finally relate to the childcare issues, being away, not wanting to spend an extra 2 hours at work or just sitting around, and wanting to go home and spend time with my kid. So, I can relate a lot more. And it helps. It helps you have that conversation, Mike, that you need to have, just a normal conversation of, hey, how's the kids today? How's the wife doing? Did she get the job that she needed? Did you actually do anything fun this weekend, or did you sit around and, play in the garage while significant other did whatever? You have those conversations, and it's not, hey, did you get this done? Why isn't it done? This was the deadline. Yes, there's those expectations, but I get to have that personal side that helps me in that mentorship, and it makes them makes me seem more human instead of me seeing just an anchor or a senior person in authority.
And I really believe that's important because again, it's the believability. It's one of the things that I preach as well too. That it's one of the things that kind of really led me towards the whole truth aspect, the reality under the headline. The believability. Individuals want to preach that they're a certain way. They have certain personality, they have certain characters, but then you put them around somebody else or you watch their comments and stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's not really what you preach to be. Businesses are the same way.
Yeah.
Where, when, fellow officers or the cadets are talking to you, it's humanized in an aspect to where now that believability is there. It's just like, well, I can relate as well too. This is the way that I found my balance. It's kind of like, somebody trying to tell you how to raise a kid that's never had a kid. And it's like
you shut down. Like I've seen sailors across my desk that, and just individuals in general, this can go back home. When I'm sitting there talking to all the friends back home and they're telling their stories about their kids and the troubles they're having, I'm shaking my head. Yeah, I understand. Yes. But I could tell they're looking right through me like you have no you have no clue, and now I have a little bit more of a clue and I can say more believable things, I guess. But the other two words I use a lot is, infallible. Nobody's infallible. Everybody has their flaws, and then the imperfect. We're not perfect. The chief's mess, and I use this, and my fellow brothers and sisters use it all the time. We're not perfect. And the only thing that makes us strong is our unity, right? And that goes with anything. If you got somebody standing next to you that has just as much drive as you do, they may not have the same smarts as you do. They may be smarter on different things. They may be a better public speaker, or they maybe be better at execution. You're the idea person. You need that other person to be successful. And that's a good thing to preach and help mentorship with these guys and sailors is that unity piece is huge. And you can't do one without the other. And I couldn't do this, without the people that I have sitting next to me. They're what make us successful. And you drive that home, and sometimes you get through a lot quicker. Sometimes it takes a little bit, and they have to see the results of it, but it helps. It helps in the leadership.
And then, so now how much of that balance as far as, is that something that with the cadets that you go over almost like your personal ASVAB as far as the mental toughness that, are you ready for separation of family if that duty calls? Because and that's a real thought that a lot of people kind of block out. But is that something that has to be discussed in the leadership mentorship? Preparing somebody for that balance.
Oh yeah, because you got different jobs within the Navy require different timelines and stuff, and we have something to what we call seashore rotation, right? You can be on shore duty, but that doesn't mean you're not going anywhere. And you can be on sea duty, and that doesn't mean you're going to be gone for a full year, or it may be, and then you have overseas service. So, you got to have those talks, because if they don't realize what they really signed up for, you got to give them reality. You can't blow smoke, up anybody. You can't give them constant, semi-truths, and you don't give them the actual truth, and you'll lose them. You'll lose the morale, and you'll lose their ability to want to do the job. So, because they'll come right back and say, well, Senior Chief Rudisill didn't say that to me. So I know that can't be it, So, yeah.
And then, so I know one of your hobbies is like the traveling, RVing and everything else too. And so obviously you love nature, how much of that, keeps the mental health as strong as, yours is. And like you can kind of, is there something as far as, again, with the leadership mentorship, is there something that you try to promote to fellow officers, cadets that, still carrying your hobbies or your interest and making sure that, you still indulge in some of them things to kind of keep that strong mental health and stuff go?
It's life balance, Mike. I can tell you, I'll give you my example. You ever been in a desert for a full year? This is a desert where I'm at, and I have to have trees. I have to have some type of change of environment to go to. This place is great as far as what we do and my job and mission and everything else. But when I go home, I go back to concrete and sand. So, that's where the RV is parked, and there's no trees. I have to have trees, and that's what helps the nature part of it. So my wife and I, that's why you see on Facebook, we try to get out every weekend and go travel, go do something different in a different area and do what makes us a little bit more sane, and what we enjoy. We love going to a park, love going by a stream, love going up to Tahoe. And that's that life balance. And for my junior people that are enlisted, you're 100% right. I talked to them about that. That is something that they need. They can't sit here and be a perfectionist at work 24/7, because if they do that, they won't last. It's just like anything. You yourself, I mean, look, you got the dog sitting on the lap or right next to you, right? Helps calm you down a little bit. Well, we got to do something too, because the Navy, it'll ask. Any military job and any other job that you have will ask. And as long as you keep saying yes and you don't do anything for yourself, you're not going to be doing that job for very long.
I love my job. I love my job. It's like, well, you don't. I mean, I'm not going to say you don't, but you do need to have that break. I mean, yes. It really is. I mean, it's just that.
You do.
And a lot of people laugh because I mean, look at you can see the bags under my eyes, and it's always just go, and some days it's just like, oh, hey, I'm not out of the mood for it, but sometimes because of how I run myself, those moments to where I can really be needed, I may not be fully mentally sharp, and so I have to check myself on that, and I probably should do it a little bit more than I do. But it's so true. Like you said, I mean, a lot of the people always want to, because everybody wants to be counted on or be able to be counted on. You know what I mean? And it's just that, well, if I say no to this, well, they think less of me or this, that, or the other. And it does play that little, mind screw, if you will. It
does.
But it's
and some people, I tell you, Mike, the disappointment thing, like me, I don't want to disappoint someone. I'd love to be surrounded by people. I like to be in a big crowd, and I don't want to disappoint. That's what keeps me going. But I don't know. I'll share this with you too. Back in, what was it, 17? Yeah, 2017 or 18 is when I had a little mini stroke. And it was because I was so focused on my job and I was doing everything that everybody asked me to do. And I was doing it well. I was, and we got our job accomplished. But it took a toll on me physically. Didn't know it. And I wasn't taking care of myself like I should have been. So ever since then, I stopped myself from, and I have to have Rosie help me stop, because that's, we're our own worst enemies sometimes when it comes to work or your hobby or whatever. Sometimes you do need a little outside control, but you got to take time for yourself. If you don't, you'll run yourself into the dirt.
Hey, thank you for sharing that. I mean, because again, that's why, I mean, I've been a mental health advocate for years.
Yeah.
It's 20 years or so, but, and that's one of the things though, too, that a lot of people, and that's why I always have so many different communications with first responders, especially because it's the career you have, the career first responders have. Yeah. Civilians, again, and I'll say this 100 times over, some people get pissed off at me because it's like, oh, yeah, I understand what they're going through, but it's nobody can really fathom, having a career to where every day you go in there, traumatic events are happening, or, someone on such large scale that you can't process it. You really can't. And it's just that, and then when you're running yourself ragged like that, and it's just no time for a break, it's so important to have, like you just said, sometimes that outside influence. You got Rosie to kind of pull you, like, oh, hey, Troy, let's go breathe for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's a blessing, and that's why I just preach that so much. That's why I wanted to kind of ask of, is that's something that you kind of promote to the new cadets, even fellow officers, or, go,
oh, yeah,
I'm going to settle down a little bit, because some people are afraid. And that's what, my next interview is going to be about, is that, how do we get individuals, or, I mean, you don't want to encourage somebody. Yeah, you do. But as far as like encouraging somebody to say that they're not okay, or that there's something on their mind, or that they need a break, because so many individuals are so worried about being put on leave, being insubordinate, or, so many other factors. But a lot of people don't realize that if they don't ask for help, or they don't say that, hey, I can't do this, they're jeopardizing other individuals, or there may be a whole worse outcome than somebody saying, okay, hey, go take the day. You know what I mean? So,
oh yeah. So let me give you an example. So, back when I was younger, and flying, when you fly, you're committed. You do a brief, you execute the mission itself, and then you do a post brief. And if you're not totally focused on what you're doing, you're a crew member of 5, what I was, and you're a crew member of 5. Everybody has a part. If you can't pull your weight, or you're not 100%, you're going to affect the mission. And I can't even imagine, like, first responders. You take paramedics, they see trauma day in and day out, every day, and with them seeing that and being on call and that moment's notice and that rush of going to the scene, and then whatever they encompass, they take that home with them. I know they do, that visual and that stress. And then they move on to the next one and the next one and the next one. To me, that's tough, and I don't know how they maintain their focus, because, what their decisions affects that life and that moment right then and there. My decisions, I got brothers and sisters next to me to tell me, hey, you're screwing up, if I'm not saying it myself. And I never took myself off the flight schedule in the beginning. But as I got older, you start to think, and I started taking myself off flight schedule if something traumatic happened in the family, because I guarantee I'd be thinking about that the whole time that I'd be up in the air. Or if something was going on with Rosie, a medical appointment or something, I probably shouldn't be on the flight schedule that day. But you take the paramedics that, day in and day out, that's their livelihood, that's their paycheck, that's how they live. They see it. I could only imagine. I don't have anybody in the family that's a paramedic or a firefighter. I got the cop stories, but I don't have the paramedic. But I truly give it to them, because that's got to be something. And I don't think they have the ability to take themselves out of the role. Sometimes they have to do it. So, man, that's got to be tough. On our side of the house, military-wise, now we are a lot better, and they have the option to take themselves out for a little while. And if we see signs of something, I take them out, meaning I take them away from the actual job at hand and let them talk and maybe get some help that they need to get help.
Hey, thank you for sharing that, Troy. You didn't have to share that, but that's where I'm kind of going with this, because it's the leading by example again that gets people that, hey, look, hey, I've had a moment where I've had to take myself off the flight schedule, or because, seeing a leader do that, and especially with you being, the command senior chief, it's and them showing that, oh, even he made a decision that, hey, it's probably better off because you're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about everybody involved. Like when you said, a crew of 5, everybody having their own responsibilities, where ultimately one person not being able to uphold their responsibilities is going to affect the 5, or even, on a greater scale. And a lot of the conversations that I have as well too is like dispatchers. Dispatchers are just taking nothing but frantic calls every day that they go in there, and they never have that resolve as far as if that life was saved, if they lost a life, if the whole place got burned down and things like that. And like with the paramedics and everything else too, that, you're seeing trauma day in and day out. And it's a heavy burden.
I used to ask Sean before his accident, because when he first went through Hamilton County, he was working at the Justice Center. That's where they all start out after they graduate the cadet. They go to the Justice Center, do that job for a while, and then they try to get hired out, into the counties and stuff. He was an alpha type personality, alpha male, the biggest guy in the room, the loudest guy in the room, and you're going to listen, right? But I never seen him have an outlet besides maybe extreme sports or riding his motorcycle, unfortunately. But he never had that. And I think those like older days, since mental health awareness wasn't probably as prominent as now, is they came home, they either drank, they yelled at their significant others, or they took it out on someone else, and they never truly dealt with the problem at hand. And that's mental health to me has come a long way. It ain't where it probably needs to be in a lot of fields, but it's definitely come a long way. And any help of anybody and encouragement of saying, hey, raise your hand, it's okay to ask for help. That goes across the board. And I'm glad people are doing it, not only on your side of the house, but on my side also.
Awesome. Hey, didn't Sean win the lottery?
He did. He won a scratch-off ticket.
But I know he won a pretty good little chunk there for a minute, man. And because he got a bike and all the other good fun stuff too. But
he got his Jeep, he got the bike, he got the house. That money was gone as soon as I think he cashed the ticket. But yeah, it was. It wasn't millions, but it was under half, so it was good.
Yeah, it was enough.
It was enough.
Awesome. And so like moving forward,
Uh-huh.
as far as I know your role, but again, I know I kind of asked this in the beginning, but as far as like recruits coming in,
Yeah.
how what should an individual look for in themselves? Because like what I do with individuals is I kind of match up interest, hobbies, and try to
Yeah.
find like a career set that would do that. So with the career set, I mean, and I know just like you said about, some of the things that were available, you didn't even know were even possible before going in,
Yeah.
but like, I mean, what kind of like interests, hobbies, or do you have any suggestions on if somebody's, because again, like-mindedness keeps an individual relevant. So are there any tips about self that somebody would be like, hey, you know what, this is probably for me?
Yeah, it's a hard question because there's so many different facets on this side now that I'm exposed to that, it's a lot. Like if somebody, when you sit down and you first meet them and you have a conversation with them or you're giving them a lecture, right? It's a 30-minute lecture. They're only going to get 10 minutes worth of information out of you. And the rest are, the other maybe 10 minutes are kind of intrigued. They're kind of phasing you out, but then they totally phase you out your last 10 minutes. So it's kind of hard. What could I tell someone coming in or what they can focus on? One thing is you sign a 4-year contract, a 4-year contract. So be questionative of what you're signing when you sign your paperwork. Because if you want to come in and you want to pick a skilled trade, make sure you got a good brief on the skilled trade that you want to do. Now, if you want to come in the Army, let's say, and be an infantryman, know exactly what you're going to get into. Know exactly what an infantryman does. A Bradley driver. You remember Rick Fritz, one of our friends or one acquaintances way back when. So he did his tour in the Army, and he was a Bradley driver because he was Boy Scouts, right? Loved the Boy Scouts, loved outdoors. He was always wanting to pick up a rifle or, be in that fighting scene of the movie. And Rick did. He enjoyed the Bradley driver very much so. And he went over to Germany, his first tour, but he had significant hearing loss from firing the cannon from the freaking Bradley, right? So then they made him a recruit instructor there in Georgia for the Army. And then he ended up getting out. He probably would have stayed a lot more if he didn't have the hearing loss. But nobody told him that in the beginning when he joined. His enthusiasm is what the recruiter snapped onto. I was like, yep, I got you. We're going to get you signed up, right? Me, I know I wanted a trade. So I was asking questions on, well, this is what I'm doing now. And Andrew was like, okay, well, if this is what you're doing now and how much you like it. Well, I like it. It's actually good. I want to be able to do something when I get out. I may not stay more than 4 years, So he made me pick that, but I liked what I picked. And I asked more questions. Because you know what I signed up for when I first did it? A damn damage controlman, DM. Do you know what they do on ships? They sit in the hull and they're on the bottom of the damn ships, and they only fight fires and like emergencies. No, I would have been miserable. I would have been absolutely miserable. And I'm glad I didn't do it. And I'm glad I listened to Andrew on that. I had the opportunity at another time to pick something else. But that's what I tell somebody coming in. Make sure you pick something that you know or you think at this point that you're going to like, because you're going to be 4 years in the military and you're going to be going for that. A year and a half of that's going to be training for that. Your other time is going to be performing that job. So you have the opportunity to do something different, but that'll come later. So I don't want that individual to be miserable when they come in the Navy. I don't think anybody put it blunt to me like that. And that would only come from somebody that I think has been in the Navy and is on the other side of recruitment, because recruitment have goals. In recruitment, you've got to make your goals for your sector. So sometimes the truth is told, maybe just not to the full extent.
Yeah, it's awesome. And, it was funny because like Andrew, one of the career I was signing up for was underwater welding.
No,
because of how short the life expectancy was. I was like, hey, sign me up. My life ain't going too good right now. I'm cool if I make it another 5.
Yeah, you'd be having heart chocolate. You would actually probably look at least 15 years older than what we look now. You'd have trouble breathing, and you know what? Yeah, you'd have some struggles but they make great money, and yeah, You can get hired on somewhere when you get out. It's just the life expectancy is very short.
Yeah, so Andrew's like, "You sure?" He's like, "Oh, life expectancy is not very long." I was like, "Oh, I'll be good," because like it's not even just like the health issues. If the chance that
Yeah.
an air bubble, a simple air bubble, hits the line or so, I mean,
Yeah.
catastrophe.
Yeah.
But it is important, and I'm glad you shared that, because asking questions and knowing if something is
Yeah.
right for you, it'll help fill that passion. It'll help bring that relevancy that you spoke about earlier and everything else too. So
Yeah, Mike, and this is something I take for granted. Kids coming in now are a lot smarter than you and I were. They're a lot more advanced, and we don't give them enough credit. They have good ideas, and they can give the Navy and military good ideas. It's just you have to be willing to listen, and they speak different. I'll just tell you that. What I've learned sitting across this table is they speak different. They may be saying the same thing you are, but they say it in a different way, a different tone, a different mannerism,
or just a couple of letters.
yeah, and I have to learn to adjust. But yeah, but I just don't know what they're being told because I'm not on that side of the house. I'm not a recruiter. Nobody's asking me questions, but if somebody came back, and I always offer, I've had a couple people, family members, friends, reach out and say, "Hey, I know you've been in the Navy for so long. Can you talk to my son, my daughter, and let them, know what you're doing?" And they didn't even know that what you've been flying and you're in the Navy, that they think that you go on ships. I was like, absolutely. Let me call and talk to them. So questions, and don't sign anything until you're comfortable.
And another thing too, like not even just the way that they talk.
Oh yeah.
So Nate Elrod was in like the communications and big onto like the technology and how technology has changed nowadays. And a lot of people don't realize that between like the Navy and the Air Force, technology is almost core to what's being served and stuff. So
it's at the forefront.
So I mean, it's see a lot of the individuals that are into computers, technology, programming. I mean, I'm sure that's a great need in there as well too. And so,
oh yeah, cyber war, and this is something that started, not just this year, but it's been a part of a big push, cyber warfare. And we have a whole new agency dedicated, and a new warfare pen and everything for cyber warfare and what we can do. So it's all kinds of stuff. They just need to ask, and then if they don't get the answer that they want, turn around and call somebody that can get it.
Awesome. And then, so I know your hobbies is Jeeps and guns. What's going on with that?
So the Jeep that I bought, right? I bought that RV, and I love the RV. Living in 36 foot for a full year and almost 2 years now, because I bought it before I left Jacksonville. It gets interesting, but we pull the Jeep behind it, and it makes it fun, even more so. So the Jeep, man, has been good, and it's just a good little tool out here in the desert. It's perfect for it. The guns out here, BLM land, you can do whatever you want. So you can go take your gun out pretty much anywhere and go shooting, have a good time. Hunting's actually really good out here, believe it or not. And there's a lot of guys out here that go shooting. So I've gotten more so into it and bought more. And one for protection for the family and stuff while we're on the road. And it's just it's a good stress reliever too, do some target shooting. And believe it or not, before I moved back to Ohio and started going to school, I did school in Florida for a little while. And there was a guy, one of my mom's friends, that took me skeet shooting. I don't know if you ever done sporting clays and skeet, but sporting clays is pretty damn fun. And I used to love doing that as a kid. And I'm kind of coming back around into kind of that kind of stuff. Don't hunt so much.
It's great for the coordination as well too, and being sharp, and especially on somebody in your field and military and everything else. Moving targets is almost always happening. You know what I mean? Yeah. So,
and then here's another misconception, Mike. So you would think in the military that I carry a sidearm 24/7. I don't. You get your training, you get qualified, you get a ribbon. If you do well on your shooting, you get another, ribbon. But some fields and jobs, you just don't get trained on that. So it's just good for me. One, it's my right as a citizen to own one anyway. So I like to have that and actually be proficient, because like anything else, if you don't use it, you forget. And if you need it in a moment's notice, or, you need to know how to do it. And, God forbid you make a mistake. And then, your life's taken. So yeah, I like it. Springfield Armory is who I like, and I've been buying a lot of those. I bought a Saint AR pistol. I don't know if you've seen those, but those are pretty neat. And then I got Rosie some, and I got her some handguns, and she's done quite well too with shooting. So take her.
Well, and that's important as well too, and that's another thing that I'm an advocate for. It's I don't say, hey, everybody should have one, but I really do believe that every homeowner should have a firearm. I really do. I mean, because especially with how aggressive society is becoming today and things like that. But it isn't just in the owning a firearm. Knowing how to be, like you just said, being proficient in the use of that, so you're actually protecting yourself rather than putting yourself in danger. So
absolutely that, and the safety aspect of it too. Just all around just training. It just isn't picking it up, putting some bullets in it and going shooting. I like the whole facet of it, breaking it down, knowing what it's made of and put it back together, and being able to use it safely and not have a worry. So that's something, just a little hobby. It keeps my mind from, it's something totally different. It's not Navy stuff to me. That's just personal stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah. Hey, so I wanted to discuss, I wore this hat for a reason. Today is someday, right?
I was gonna ask, that was my next conversation. I was just trying to get through the work stuff real quick.
Today is someday, and I wear this everywhere, and I've got more compliments on it, and it's from a fellow RV group that I follow, and actually he's a retired officer, was enlisted, went LDO and became officer, and then retired. But anyway, it's today is someday is his slogan, and I tell you what, it's one of the best slogans I've heard in quite some time, because we all sit back and we kind of debate, in our heads, well, I should do this today, or I should do that, or I should start this, or, well, I didn't finish this. But you know what? There's plenty of time in a day to do something for yourself. So if there's anything that people get out of the talk or do whatever, it's just, today is someday. Do something for yourself, make a little bit of a change, and make yourself better. If you can make yourself better, it just helps everyone else around you. Or if you're not good with yourself, help someone else. Help someone else be better. Take advantage of that, because when you sit by yourself and you got those demons rolling around in your head and you got all these other thoughts, sometimes it ain't the best. So try to improve something, and that's why I like the slogan. Today is someday. It's a good thing to go by. It's a good thing to take action instead of just sitting back watching stuff on news or whatever. So
thank you for sharing. I mean, because I was going to bring it up because I do those quotes on the board and everything else.
Yeah.
So I have a whole book of quotes that is going to be published and all that good stuff, because I have different stories behind each one. And one of them was that one day that you were putting off for is today. And so I kind of like smiled when I first seen it. I wanted to kind of talk about that because, again, going with the mental health aspect of everything.
Yeah.
It's like you just said, like doing something for, like, if you don't, know how to do it or feel like doing it for yourself, a lot of individuals that haven't had like the service of others don't realize like how fulfilling that really is. It's like, helping somebody cross the street. It sounds stupid, but seeing the smile on somebody else's face, smiles are contagious. Good feelings are contagious, to where, doing things like that, it's going to promote your well-being. It's going to promote your mental health. It's going to promote your, your attitude and everything, and I love that hat. It's the someday. I mean, because it's the, as we all know, tomorrow is not guaranteed. So, why keep putting off for something that, hey, I can fulfill today? If it's not the grander scale of what it is I'm trying to accomplish, I can at least do something to reach that, overall objective and everything. So, today is someday, and I appreciate you sharing that as well too, man. It's a blessing.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think, my sister, my brother, my side of the family, we've all had our fair share of challenges and stuff, and some of them are still going through it. But like Sean is a good example, because one day, he's on top of the world, wife, 2 kids, has his house. He won a little bit of lottery money, and then the next day, he's got a traumatic brain injury and never the same. So you don't know, but I can tell you this, his effects on other people still remember him for who he was, and his story still goes on. And now, you know, if you can't do it for yourself, and that's why I say do it for someone else, I try to do everything I can for him now, and to make him smile in the state that he's in, or to make him laugh. And most of my family, we get enjoyment by seeing a smile on his face, even though he may not know what the hell you're saying or can't, have a full conversation. It's fine. Sometimes that little smile goes a long way, and it makes you feel better at the end of the day. It's not selfish by any means to do that. It's a good thing. So
It really is. And hey, thank you for sharing that too, because I already remember when all that happened.
yeah,
And the change and stuff like that. And the sad thing behind that, I really don't want to bring up a negative about that, but it's something, again, with me, with truth and me being blunt, is the fact that so many people that were there in his life,
yeah,
they liked the fun times, they liked everything else. But when that happened to him, fucking ghosts everywhere. You know what I mean? It was just like, all those people that were there. Oh, hey, Sean.
they disappeared quick.
It's disgusting. It's fucking disgusting. I apologize about my language and stuff like that, man, but it really is disgusting. And that's one of the things too. It's like why I commend you so much on what you've done. I mean, because we could have taken that, a course like that too. And I mean, look how many people were there around us back then. As long as it was about a good time. But the moment somebody turns serious and they want to progress, for themselves or for their families, it's freaking crickets and ghosts everywhere. It's just like
it is, man.
But, I look at it as a blessing though, because it helps me shed the ignorance out of my life, to where a lot of times I'm such a giving person and things like that, and a lot of people take advantage of it. But my blinders are on a lot of times too. But not having that heavy crowd around me, it's like I guess I didn't need you anyway. If you weren't there for the hard times, I'm sure in hell not willing to even share my good times. So I'm glad you brought that up, because even what you do now, it's a lot of people see that. I mean, you can we don't have to talk about it, but just bringing it up as thought, as far as like how many of our crowd kind of dissipated, once you made the decisions to better yourself. I know mine freaking, and it's even hard for people nowadays, now that I'm, do all the good that I do, it's still hard for some of them people, because I'm not going to say how scarred, but it was like, a lot of people just, they don't want nothing to do with me. It's like, well, hey, good. It's I only want like-minded people around me anyway.
Well, and this to me isn't selfish. This isn't being, vain or anything. Well, I don't know what you want to call it, but I mean, take a look around you. Are the people around you helping you succeed? Are they helping you be successful? If they're not, and they're not giving you positive vibes, they don't need to be around you, Mike. I mean, how are you going to succeed if you just have everybody, you keep that same circle, you love them for who they are, but if they're constantly either negative, bringing you down, or don't help you succeed, you know what? Then you ain't going to go nowhere. Your life is going to be the same no matter what. And my life is different because I chose to surround myself around different people, and I won't say I maintain relationships with the people that helped me or were a positive influence on me somehow, some way, and I kept moving forward. It does. I mean, I miss back home. I mean, I'm sure you miss some aspects of it too. I really do miss back home. There's some great people back there, but there's also some people back where we all come from that'll just bring you down. There's people here where I'm at now. I'll go a different path because I want to be around good people that want to succeed. And I see how happy people can be once you get a little bit of not success, but just your mental health is better. You know what I mean? So
100%. And that's
yeah,
why I love the whole mental health aspect of it, because little things like that do play, like the circle you're around. And a lot of people, they blame others, they blame situations, they blame environment on why they go nowhere, but they want to keep that same circle of and people get insulted when I say this, but if you encompass yourself with a circle of losers, you're going to be a loser. You're not going to find a successful person in a group of losers. It's not going to happen. And I don't mean losers in a sense like that, but individuals that are purposefully making decisions that they know are holding them back. There's no other word for it. There's not, and
there's not, man.
Like-minded. It's just, and I'm sure you see it as well too, that where, again, with the mental health aspect, where, individuals, they may not feel that their service is purposeful. So they start to lose that interest in, and in your field, your career, having that sometimes affects everyone. So again, being that today being someday, to where your positive attitude and things like that could be that turnaround for that individual that's just kind of walking around with their head down.
Yeah,
So it is important. Because I mean, it's just that you know positive energy is contagious. And it's
it is.
smiles are contagious and stuff like that, man. And that's
I don't hold crystals or anything like that and rub the stones at night, but just positive energy in general. I'm not a tree hugger, all those cliches. It's just, it helps, man, because I've been there and I still, go up and down. And then when good things happen and good people around you, it helps, and that's probably a growing thing, a learning thing. You don't see it as you're younger, but, as now that we're past a certain age, you see it a little bit more. And, that with age comes wisdom. And that is very true.
awesome. And then so during your career, I mean,
Yeah.
awesome, 22 years, man. So during that career, were there any points in there that you still store today for like mentorship or for like being a father? As far as the you being, because you're exposed to a lot more than what regular civilians are for. So
Yeah.
your sharpness, your awareness, and you have more to offer to individuals that really aren't in the not know part. They're not in the
Yeah.
know. So I mean, are there any events overall, or is it just encompassing that 22 going on 23-year career that in fatherhood, in the guidance to ensure that Arlo succeeds in life and provide him all the tools, resources that he can succeed? Is there
Yeah.
anything that inspires you in the way that you mentor other individuals, mentor and being a father? Is there anything like that that really kind of does that, or is it just encompassing everything as a whole, from like before enlistment and then the entirety, or was there like one specific event that happened? Or
That's I'm still learning, Mike. I'm still trying to keep
that's a
that.
true leader's words right there.
Yeah,
Anybody that says they
I
know
mean,
it all, and it's the
those are a lot of answers, and I don't have all those answers. I have examples. I have plenty of sea stories, and then I know where I don't want to be. I know what I don't want. My wife to end up. I know where I don't want my son to end up. So I have my own personal beliefs, but one example that I used that I learned, and it was during my Chiefs season, and it's a good example because in the Navy or in any job, sometimes you just take too much on and you try to put everything on your shoulders. Well, we do an event. There's nothing secret about this at all. I mean, we do an event. Everywhere does different stuff, but in where I was at, the event was you take an individual away from the group. And then I was taken away from the group, and they asked me, they'd say, who do you think was the best person or helped you the most out of this, during this process? And I'd say a name, and they'd call that individual out of the crowd. And they're like, all right, Rudy, I want you to just play dead, and that person is going to drag you up the hill, something to that nature. And then they picked another person to help out, right? Well, the experiment didn't go wrong, or the lesson didn't go the way it should, until it came back around to where after I was done and I went back in the crowd, everybody said my name. Well, I had to carry and drag everybody up this hill. It got to a point where I truly I felt humbled that everybody thought that they can trust me and that I contributed a lot and that I helped them. But the one guy, when it got to the guy that was he was almost 6'7". He was a good 225, if not more. He was a good dude, and he was one of my good buddies going through this process with me. He called out my name, and this was after like 4 or 5 people that I've drug up this hill, and he called out my name, and I had no problem stepping back out. I stepped back out, and I got up there, and I did my damnedest to drag him up that hill. Well, needless to say, I got him up and I was done. I had any energy left. And I went back in that group of people. They called out another person. And then that person called out on me. And I went back out again. And I kept going back out till when it got to a point that I couldn't go up the hill no more. And I broke down because in my mind, I can carry everybody up that hill. I can make them succeed and I can help them succeed. You can't carry everyone up to the top of the hill. And that was the lesson. Everybody got their own lesson out of it, but that was my lesson and what I got out of it. I was so broken at that point. I wasn't a crier. I didn't cry through all these other training episodes, but I cried that day because I felt like I let them down, and I didn't need to feel like that. As a leader, you got to realize that you can't carry everyone up to the hill. You can't carry them to the point to where you have everyone on your back. And there's some artistry on this stuff too. After I've sat and thought about it, and I looked it up and all this other stuff, and you can't put everything on your shoulders. You've got to have failure to be able to succeed. You got to be able to cut your loss to be able to succeed. And that's a hard lesson. That's a real hard lesson, especially when you have a big heart. And at that point, I was leading with my heart instead of leading with my mind and what I should be doing. So that's one good example maybe I have for you, if that kind of answers your question. And I tell that story to people that are going through, that are just taking way too much on, or I see them trying to do too much for one individual that isn't getting to the point where they've done everything they possibly can, and the individual's still not listening. You got to learn to cut bait, however you want to say it. And it sounds harsh, but yeah, it's a hard lesson to learn.
That's a great example. Thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, like really, I mean, because not only something like on guidance with Arlo, okay, but
Yeah.
like other individuals as well too, because that is one of the most vital lessons that an individual has to understand, because you do have to know your limits. You do have to know that, sometimes you're crippling other people by carrying them people, and and a lot of times because of that, we're crippling ourselves, to where it's nice to be relied upon and things like that. But, sometimes you're crippling that other person by saying, okay, hey, I'll carry you to the top.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen if, they need to carry themselves or whatever the case may be,
And it took me physical pain to realize that, and me physically, I thought I was good to go. Mentally, I was there, and then my heart was totally in it. I had all the right answers, but when it came down to brass tacks, that ain't what it takes. And here I was, I was on the wrong path. So it's a good lesson to learn, and I'm glad that I got to learn it through the physical nature of it, not just by reading it in a book. That's the other thing that's hard for me too, because I am a hands-on learner, and I'm not a huge reader, but I do read some, and sometimes I get lost in the readings. So much is in there, and you try to absorb so much, you don't get those life lessons right off the bat, and that's one good aspect. Maybe I can teach Arlo, and then with the new people coming in, I get to teach them that, so which is good.
Awesome. Well, and it's things like that too. I mean, it's your awareness is so sharp though, that, being able to take, your personal adventures, your personal tragedy. I'm not going to say tragedies. Well, I mean, any of the tragedies, struggles, or, things you've found difficult though. And because the reminders to yourself, it kind of keeps that mental check as far as the, progressing forward and things like that, and passing that, information on to other individuals too, because, leadership isn't just showing somebody how to do something, mentoring them through that is the part. So the mentoring will lead to the leadership, to where when you're mentoring somebody and you're letting them know these key components that, it may be a hands-on thing, but like say you're reading something and you see it and it's like, well, hey, how can I put this to example? And it's that mental play on other situations, and that correlation between the two, so it's invaluable. And, it's a blessing that, you take the things, and it's another star on your sleeve. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's just as far as, being able to recognize those things, because, as, you better yourself, you're also bettering those around you, especially the family and things like that as well too. So
yeah, it's weird to, where'd you see yourself 20 years from when you were 19, Mike? I mean, we didn't really have a path to where, I don't know if you knew what you wanted. I sure the hell didn't know what I wanted, and I didn't think I was going to make it past 30. And that was the mindset that I was in. And it's foolish to think like that. Could have done so much more probably as we were younger if we were thinking like we were now. But I'm glad I'm in a position, and I'm glad that it's transitioned to this, and glad to see you do this kind of stuff, because, it's a hard world. It's a harsh world. It's not easy. It's not getting any easier. So that mental health game, and being a person and being relatable, relevant, infallible, imperfect, whatever you want to say, whatever gets the point across to get people across the finish line, I think it's important, man. It's doing good work. So I commend you for that one too.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I just do what I do because others need to hear your story. Others need to hear the stories of the other individuals I bring on here. I expose the truth and the realities that, a lot of people don't want to face. A lot of people don't want to talk about, and it's just that, individuals like yourself, you are true leaders. You are a true mentor. And it's some little glimpse of what you do, and, hearing your stories, hearing, your leadership strategies and everything else too. I just pray that, individuals listening, or, other individuals that now like talking to you, and the tidbits that you have given me, that I'm able to, guide another one too, to where, that today is there someday as well too. I mean, that is something that I try to strive for and live for, and everything else too. And it's I want to bring on you and expose you to, other individuals as well too, man, because it's again, I wish I had that shock value to where, I mean, if an individual really knew like your backstory, which, you kind of gave it in the beginning and everything else too, and, what led into, and then that transition, man, I commend you, and I'll never stop commending you for that, Troy. Seriously, man. It's a blessing. Seriously.
Thank you. And you know what? It's funny. I'll tell sailors, I give them a little piece of what I was back in the day, and they look at me like I'm a three-headed monster, and I'm telling them something that is non-true, and they have no really comparison, because they see, how we act now, how we speak now, and kind of the lessons you give them. And there's no way. And I don't
even know that it was a true transition to where you could see somebody else like saying you like, there's no way that you're that guy. And it's like, really, I was, man. No.
Yeah, really, I was, and I don't tell stories way back and when, and I think I forgot half of them. I leave those to others to tell. But I brought Rosie, and this is kind of just for your kind of fun. I brought Rosie back home for the first time. I want to say this was 2000. I want to say it was 2003 or 2002. I can't remember, but it was before Sean's accident. So his was in 04, so it had to have been 2 or 3. But I brought her back to Harrison for the first time. And there was a big gathering of all of us. And, and I told her, I was like, hey, on the ride back to Harrison, Ohio from Washington, D.C., I said, you're going to hear a lot of stuff. I was like, you kind of know some stuff, but I haven't told you details. Just take it with a grain of salt, enjoy the stories. You can ask me anything afterwards if you want to. I'll try to set the story straight in case they told you a true fib and added onto it. But she was shocked. She was like, that was you? And I'm like, yeah. I can't deny it. Yeah. It's like not many people know the backstory, but that was me. But I truly don't do that anymore. Right. Gave her that speech and everything else. And she was enlightened, but to tell young sailors those kind of stories, that's only if the shit gets real, I guess. If it's a real problem, maybe I could share some of that stuff, but but it's all in good fun though. I tell you what, you kind of try to relate, but I'm having a harder time relate to kids that are coming in that are 18, 19, 20, even the 25 and under. It's kind of hard in a way. So
what's important though, and it's a lot of us, we always throw the phrase around that, oh, hey, I'd change it if I could, but it's would you really want to? Because if that did not happen, would you have made the decision, to enlist, or would you have made the decision that, ultimately would have led you to, Rosanna or Arlo and things like that too, to where, I mean, it's just that, it's good to kind of block out, because we don't want to, let ourselves fall susceptible to that. But it's those infallibles that, create who we are today, as long as we recognize
Man.
the contrast between the two, and and again, not many individuals are able to make the decisions that you've made for yourself, which ultimately have, progressed forward and are gonna ultimately rub off on Arlo and everything else too. So
Yeah, and I wouldn't change anything, Mike. I'd maybe change a few conversations, but that's about it. That's about it. I wouldn't change anything else. Everything else was good. Hey, I wanted to share with you. It's a good little. I told you I'm not a big reader, right? Can you see the thickness of this book? Hold on, there we
make
go.
your bed. Hey, I listened to his speech when I don't know if it's the same.
Oh, it's the same dude. You have to. All right. So there's
you want
little.
to start, get up by making your bed.
and truly, some days I'm so messed up that I even think about this little book.
That's the title of the book, is Make Your Bed?
Yeah. It says awesome. Make your bed. Make your bed. And I tell you what, and it's got so many great little points in it that you can relate to. You don't have to be military at all. And it's Admiral William H. McRaven. But some days you're just so screwed up and you think you make every wrong decision throughout the day. But if you just make your bed, you've made one right decision and you've done one thing right. And that's simple. It's so simple to think of it that way. And it's like, and it makes you feel okay. It's like, all right, well, fuck, I made everything else a wreck today, but at least I made my bed. I kind of laugh at it, but there's some good little points in it. And it's an easy read. It's, I call it shitter material because you can actually read some of it while you're on a shitter, but it's something that helps too, So, but those days that I wanted to tell you that we don't do things right. And like at the end of the day, you just think you fucked up the world and just do one thing right. It doesn't have to be huge and significant. It can be so little as your daily routine, hey, I made myself breakfast today or whatever your thing is. You just do one thing right and you can make it to the next day. And
it sounds stupid. And it is too, because it sounds little or it sounds stupid for a lot of individuals to be able to tell, oh yeah, hey, I made my bed. But in the same sense, though, it's and especially in the moments where things seem impossible.
Yeah.
Well, hey, if it was impossible, I wouldn't have made my bed, or hey, I wouldn't have been able to make myself breakfast, because it's hey, I pushed myself in a moment that I didn't feel like doing something, and I was able to do this. I did accomplish something that's beneficial. You got to eat.
It is. You got to eat. I mean, we've all been there to where you've been I have anyway, been so stressed out to where you just zone. You don't really talk to nobody. You don't answer anything. You're kind of just zoning, looking through the TV screen, right? And you don't accomplish anything. And you don't. I've had weekends like that before, and I just didn't want to do anything. But you do one thing right, and it helps you do something right the next day. So, yeah, I'm not a big reader, but I do like that speech, and I do like the book, going back to it from time to time.
Yeah, if anybody has a chance to look that up on YouTube as well, too. I mean, the speech. I mean, because again, you can read words or anything else like that, but I want to kind of bring you on here as well, too, because, hearing somebody's, their tone, their personality, and the way that they actually present that message comes across, a lot more clear. So if anybody has a chance to actually listen to his YouTube speech for that book, it's phenomenal.
Man. It really is. And you don't even have to like military. I know he's a very successful military officer, but you take the military uniform off of it and take the military aspect of it, but he gives examples. And some of the toughest people that when you think of Navy and you think of military, you think, oh, Navy SEALs, right? I've hauled a lot of them. I've hauled a lot of SEAL teams. I've met a lot of them. And they're not big guys. They're not strong as far as look like they'll break you in half kind of guys. They're usually your average height, usually your average build, but their mental capability and their mental toughness is really what they develop and what makes them succeed. And that's some of the examples that he uses in there. And to complete a mission, man, they got to be mentally fit. And that's what makes them SEALs. I always thought it was the vice versa. The endurance, yes, it's there. Physical fitness, yes, it's there. But they're not built like Incredible Hulk. They're smaller than me. So it's
like another one too that kind of gets that mental toughness across too. A lot, not reading and things like that, which you can watch the videos on him as well too. But David Grogan's.
Oh yeah,
that dude's a machine, like literally. He's like, but he goes about like the SEALs training and everything else too. That even though a Navy SEAL has to go through a rigorous physical test and everything else too, that it is that mental toughness that, you could have King Kong come in there, but if they don't have that mental toughness, it's the failure for themselves and the crew.
Yeah, and it's amazing when you read about their training and you try to adapt some of their. We always try to like, we can do some of the exercises, right? Try to adapt some of those, but those, even their physical fitness is built in the end to make their mind overcome the pain. It is that mental toughness that makes them, the muscles seem strong, not weak. You know what I mean? They're not tired, they're ready. You know, it's that mind shift in that training and mental toughness that it's a neat thing to get into. Yeah, and it's a good thing to hear and watch too.
Awesome. Is there anything else you want to cover today, Troy?
No, man. I'm sorry for the delay in actually getting on here. I'm glad I'm finally able to do it. I am busy. I'd like to do some more with you when I'm able. People have questions, they can email me directly, or contact me. That's okay. I just happy for the opportunity. It's good to see you succeed, Mike, and do this kind of stuff. And keep pushing, man. Who knows? I mean, I'm not up for. I say I'm not retiring anytime soon, but who knows when that day comes? But I'll be back down in Florida, though. I'll tell you that, and I may get to see you.
When's that gonna take place?
Actually, I'm coming. We're trying to get down there. I'm taking Arlo for his second birthday to Disney. So that's December. And then after that, I got to plan another trip. So my mom, I don't know if she's watching today. I was thinking she may join in. But anyway, she's in Port Charlotte, area. So I'm always down near Port Charlotte from time to time. Because I go down and see Sean. Sean's down in Port Charlotte too.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, the nursing home that we got him down there in Port Charlotte, he's been in the same place, for years now. Take really good care of him, and he's happy. So we've kept him there. And my mom works at the front desk there, so she gets to see him quite often and help take care. And then actually my sister Michelle, she is down there too.
I knew Michelle's down here because she was just in a hospital not too long ago.
She was. She's going through her stuff now. So, but yeah, she's down there in Port Charlotte area too. So,
you'll have to swing up there when you come down here because I would like to go visit with Sean and everything else too.
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. The door's open. I say I like to get down there, and then it turns 6 months past, and then I finally get to get down. So timing is everything. If I do, I'll let you know.
Perfect. I do have a couple individuals that are wanting to enlist and things like that too. Because I do the different group things as well too, for like career advancement, all that stuff too, to kind of help people kind of find out where they want to go. So I would like to kind of bring you on, set it around your schedule because their schedule's pretty much open. I know you're a busy man, and it's service to the country and everything else it's a busy role. I know that. So, but Troy, I wanted to. Thank you for your service. Thank you for your decision to make that change for yourself and actually sign those enlistment papers. And not even just that, but just having that passion, that determination to make it on 3 times. Not a lot of individuals, after being turned away, whether from self or from others rejecting, for you to just keep driving forward and knowing that, hey, look, as long as I do this, I'll make it in there. So thank you for having that drive and that passion to make it on taking 3 attempts to actually get in there. Thank you for your service. Thank you for being an inspiration. Thank you for being so positive to family and everybody else. I know some of your friends, they might not say it to you, man, but I just have to know just from the sidelines, when I scroll through. That's, Facebook has its negatives, but the beauty of it is being able to have that contact, watching people grow, watching people, social. That's a social network.
Yeah.
But it really is, man. It's little things like that, sharing the things, and that makes today, my someday a lot of times. Seriously,
I appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons why I stayed on there, because I've been gone a long time, and I only come back for short periods of time. I don't get to come back for long periods of time to see everybody I'd like to. So it keeps me in contact with, people that I want to, and maybe even some people that I don't, but it's fine. And
some people remind you why you lost contact with them.
Yeah, but it's all good, man. A lot of people have ended up in good spots, so it's good to see that on my end too. And anybody that's looking to join, your friends or whatnot, I'm not one to steer them only towards Navy. I do have a little knowledge on all the services, so if it's a conversation for another branch, I don't mind that either. And I've got one good thing about now is my outreach is pretty long, so I can reach to pretty much anything that you need information wise when it comes to that stuff. So I'm willing to help or willing to answer what I can.
Awesome. Thank you again for your time, Troy. It's a blessing, and stay safe and stay blessed in all things. And thank you for the service to the country, and again, your service and mentorship, leadership for family and everything alike, man.
All right, man.
Stay safe and stay blessed in all things, brother.
All right, you too, man. Take care.
Yes, sir.
All right, bye-bye.